Hello all. It is Mental Matters time. We're about to get into it. I have two amazing guests today, and I'm excited to, get into it today. Oh my gosh, excited. But before we dig in, if it's your first time ever hanging out with me, my name is Sandra Porter, and I am the Chief Vision Strategist with Cultivated Connections Design and Consulting, while I help educators serve children by cultivating healing of social awareness and education through the arts. Y'all know how your girl is. And also, I'm going to toot my own horn. Beep, beep, toot, toot. I just finished 10 years of teaching. I'm real excited about it, okay? Because I didn't think I was going to make it that long. But it's been such a joy and a pleasure to continue to do this work, especially in the creative field of dance education and more. But today's conversation is the end of this Mental Matters series. And y'all, I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit sad. We're going to have to, do another series. I don't know what this series is going to be, or we might just extend this one. But for the month of May, we focused on mental health because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. It was also Teachers Appreciation Week and all that other jazz. So I just really wanted to talk about mental health this week, not this week, but this month. And all the special guests have been absolutely amazing. Thank y'all for trusting me and joining us on this platform. Oh my goodness. So if y'all hadn't had a chance to watch all of those, make sure you go back. It's on YouTube. It's not on Instagram. Sorry. IG is with the stuff, but it's on all the other stuff. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook pages, all of that. So make sure you go back and watch all of the glorious conversations that we had. We talked about planning. We talked about healthy eating and wellness. We talked to a fabulous music educator just on her journey. And today we're talking to amazing mental health service workers, amazing Black women, y'all. So I can't wait to get them on here. So let's get into it. I'm about to bring them on right now. Hey, ladies.
Hi.
So again, y'all heard me in the backstage. Thank y'all for me today. Like when I tell y'all my heart is full, it's full. And then talking to amazing melanated queens.
Thank you. I try. We try, girl.
No, we ain't trying, we doing.
Doing, accomplishing. Right. Right.
If it's anybody's first time ever being on this platform with me, just so y'all know, y'all gonna get the real deal Holyfield from us. Like, yes, we're all
Absolutely.
Black, but just because we're professionals does not mean we have to mask and code switch. So you're gonna get what you get, okay? Cultivated fam. So, everyone knows who I am, but I would love for you amazing women to just tell us who you are, what do you do, and who do you serve. So either one can go first.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Santasha.
Hey, my name is Santasha Wright Comer. I am a licensed master social worker. I am a full-time therapist. I usually see adults, so ranging from like 20 all the way up. And we usually work with people who are experiencing anxiety, depression, and I also specialize in sex therapy too. So if y'all need some help, I'm right here too. um, but yeah, what led me to go into this field definitely was the stigma that I was seeing within my own community, right? So the stigma when it comes to, not acknowledging mental health within the household, and then identifying and putting that label under, oh, Auntie Nellie, she's, something's going on with her, without saying, oh, she has Alzheimer's, she has dementia. So that's what really led me into this field. I'm excited. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, girl. But yeah.
I am AK Harris, and I have been in the mental health field for over 10 years. And that's ranging from clinics to hospitals to rehab facilities, all of those things and all of those aspects. So it's the therapy and the counseling and dealing with the co-occurring and the indigent. And what I realized was that you begin to see the break and what is actually needed in our communities. And when dealing with that space, I noticed that there was a space between people going into rehab and then
Mhm.
the steps needed afterwards, especially for our moms and babies. And so that is a huge passion of mine, which is why I started Harris Howard Homes. And
Mhm.
Harris Howard Homes is a small business that I started that develops leaders in the community. And we do that by promoting self esteem, spirituality, health and wellness, finance, stability, sex awareness, all of that. And we do that by providing services. So, life coaching, counseling services, providing resources, career development, and soon to be, we're funding for a transitional house. And the reason why I even started all of this and got into this field was because I noticed, now I'm a church girl. I grew up in the church. If anybody knows what a Kojic church is, um, you notice that some things aren't talked about, but they're definitely happening. And so there were a lot of topics that were taboo, especially sex, intimacy, adultery, lying, stealing. You heard about a lot, but all of those secret things that,
Mhm.
what happens in the home stays in the home. And so I realized these are the things that I want to bring out. And these are the things that people are struggling with. And now as adults have trauma with.
Mm. Ooh, okay, y'all. If y'all see me looking down, I'm writing down little tidbits of first of all, y'all are fabulous. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
one of the reasons why I always ask that question is because everyone has a story to how they got to where they are. Um, and what I always love to hear what inspired a person to go into the field of study that they have and to create this career because to be a service worker, as we all are, no matter the
Yes.
industry, we were put on this earth to serve to some capacity, right?
Right.
Of course, we were born this way. I'm a believer. The Lord made us this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's always
I
something
did this like.
pivotal that has drove you to that that career, that moment, something.
Right.
Speak for myself, like I knew that I was going to be some kind of educator. Now, what kind of educator, I don't know. But even as a kid, children gravitated towards me. Like my mama would call me, "You always babysitting somebody's child." We'd be at whole birthday parties, and here I'm looking at the kids, and that was me as a kid. So I knew that I
Right.
would serve children, just didn't know in what capacity. However, I've
Right.
also been very creative my whole entire life, thanks to my daddy and my mama. Thank y'all, parents. Um, it wasn't until like college where I learned more about dance education and all that jazz, and realized that my community, North Memphis, which we kind of chatted about backstage.
Yes.
I grew up in North
Yeah.
Memphis,
North,
Sure.
not south.
North. If I'm in, put your thumbs up.
Girl knows all about the A town for me.
That part,
Right.
but there were
Kansas.
kids. See, I love these ladies, y'all. Come on, we having fun over here. But there was this moment, even as a youngster, where I realized there were no creative spaces for
Right.
me and children that look like me. And when we moved, and I went to more of a suburban school. Hey, G Town people, if y'all watched the other week, one of my fellow classmates was on there. It wasn't
Oh,
until I realized like the true inequities that was happening in the educational system. Like, why this side got the theaters and the music programs and the dance
mhm.
programs and all these other programs and tutoring and all that. And
Right.
we over here, we ain't got nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized throughout my childhood and my own personal trauma was that creativity is what helped me and saved me. It really saved my life. The dancing, the drawing, the writing. I still write to this day poetry and all that jazz.
Right.
So being in this work, that's one thing that drove me to being a arts educator, and I've taught core content as well. But it was the reason what brought me back was I wanted children, especially children that looked like me, who could not have those conversations about their feelings and express themselves in that manner because of what you both just said, stigma and not talking about things in the community. And
Right.
I love the Lord, but the Lord made medical professionals for a reason.
Yes.
It's okay to do both, pray and
Right.
it's okay. But
That
we
part.
sometimes don't hear children, especially Black children, when they're saying they're stressed out or anxious or when they're acting out. It's like, nah, you're just bad. I'm like, no, it might
Yeah.
be something
Yep.
here.
Yep.
It might be something going on. Especially as a child who suffered from anxiety. I suffered from anxiety, and the doctor told my granny early on, like, nope, that hyperventilating, no, she's having
Mhm.
anxiety attack. We thought it was asthma. And I'm like, how am I having a whole asthma attack in the bed? Like,
Right.
I
Yep.
know.
Home remedies.
Right.
It
Let me
was
just pray it away.
that part. And there was a whole lot of
Mm,
a whole lot of Shirley seizure going on. Thank you for those experiences, but I know you both work with more so like adults, but what would you say about like childhood anxiety or depression? Like, how can we as adults be more of a support to children, teens, the youngsters who are going through mental health issues?
I think the first step is to ask questions.
Mhm.
Uh, People have a tendency to, and I'm generalizing when I say this, even back in the day in our culture, a child needs to stay in a child's place.
Mhm.
And so if I say something, that's what goes. And if a child asks why, or they're frustrated or they're confused, and we don't ask, well, why are you confused? Well, why are you frustrated? Because it might be something simple. It's because I can't tie my shoe and you
Mhm.
want me to get in the car. It could be something simple like that. So asking the question and being transparent and then being direct on how to solve that.
Mhm. I agree.
I definitely also think too being able to practice some of those self-care techniques with yourself and then with your kids as well too. Being acknowledging that mommy, daddy, we also have some issues going on too. We're tired, we're stressed, and this is how we cope with this. This is how we do things. We may do some deep breathing. We may, play some video games to get our mind off of what's going on. Hey, why don't you invite the kids into your space too of that self-care and just that deep breathing once you get to know yourself too as parents and as teachers too. Find your own way of being able to express yourself, get all those, stressors or all those things that's kept inside, express it, and then show other kids how you express it in a healthy way too. So
I
I would
definitely
definitely say that.
I had a moment, what was it, about 3 weeks ago, where I felt very overstimulated. And I also have ADHD as well. And it
Yep.
was just a moment where I felt I was on edge, like really like, oh my gosh, I don't even want my clothes to touch me. But of course, we can't get out of our clothes at work, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
there was a moment I had to go into this fourth grade class, and they were just really loud. And being children, they were just like really, really loud. And I just had to have a real conversation with them. I said,
Mhm.
scholars, can we all just take a moment of rest? And they know because they know me,
Mhm.
I'm not okay. And one of my sweet babies, she was like, Miss Porter, are you all right? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, what's going on? Like the look of concern. What's going on? I said, well, Miss Porter is very, very overstimulated. And I love that I can say that word and they know what it
Yeah.
means.
Right.
And that was like, well, what do you need? And now everybody's like, well, what do you need? What do you need? Because that's what I do to them. What do you need? How can I support you? And I was
Right.
like, I need a moment of quiet for like 2 minutes.
Yep.
Can we all just lay our head down and turn off the lights? And we did that for 2 minutes, and they gave me my 2 minutes, and I was like, yes. And it was also just this moment of we have to show in order to
Mhm.
receive. Like the
Yeah.
reciprocation doesn't
Yeah.
just happen, especially with children and your fellow colleagues. But since I am an educator, I'm talking from that lens of
Mhm.
expect my students to give me whatever it is that I want if I haven't shown it to them. So
Right.
It's the leading by example.
yes, I
And
have.
that goes with adults too.
Yes, yes.
Leading by example, if they can see the consistency and they can see the transparency, all
Mhm.
of that. Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely say too, going to therapy as well. Let's, reduce the stigma. Let's just say, hey, mommy, daddy, we're mommy and daddy, we're going to therapy. We can make an appointment for you too if you have those feelings and kind of go over and, those symptoms and what these feelings feel like versus anxiety versus depression. Being able to talk about it with the
Mhm.
kids and because they mirror us, they look at what we're doing. So
Mhm.
why not?
I
That's
feel.
a good way of externalizing. So externalizing the problem from the person.
Mm.
You're not bad. There's anxiety and there's you. This is what anxiety looks like. Explain
Right.
what that anxiety looks like. What does that nervousness look like? What does
Right.
that stress look like? Because you are not the stress.
Mhm.
Separating those two things.
Yes,
Hmm.
and I love that you said that because it's y'all know what's going on in the Tennessee school system right now. This third grade situation, them babies are stressed, y'all.
Yes, they are.
So we've had several conversation of like, you're just feeling anxious right now. You're supposed to
Right.
Mhm.
be fine. Take a breath. Like, I don't think I've ever had children to hug me as much as they have in the last 2 months, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right, sweet babies, it's gonna be all right. Let's do our breathing mindfulness techniques that we learned in dance class. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you for doing that. I think more teachers need to kind of take that on, of course, within their space, because you guys are already taking on so much already, right? But just a little, meditation, mindfulness. It doesn't even have to be meditation. Mindfulness can be in so many realms if you want it to be, with doing a group activity or just like you said, just breathing,
Yes, just stop.
taking a deep breath. Right. Even music too.
Mhm.
Dance. Oh my God. There's so many ways just to be in the present, be mindful. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
It's a must. And I tell the
When you
children,
said you implement creativity, are you, I know you mentioned dance. There's also, art therapy and play therapy, all of those things that are kind of tangible. They can use their hands, the sand and the kinetic sand,
mhm,
different things like that, Play Doh,
mhm,
Yeah.
and mindfulness, just walking outside
yep,
without your shoes on,
yes,
on the
grounding,
grass.
Yeah.
Feel
grounding,
the grass, feel the wind, feel the sun, and be able to plant yourself. Put
mhm,
Right.
yourself back into the present.
mhm,
Calm your nerves, calm
mhm,
your body,
mhm.
Yes.
and then start again.
Yep,
Yep.
color. Like that's my
Mhm.
go-to.
Definitely.
Let's go get some markers, and we're just gonna color and
Yeah.
draw. That's
Mhm.
Yes.
yes, yes, and I use those a lot of those techniques even as a core content teacher too, because we are talking about education all the time. Like we're reading, we're writing, we're reading, we're writing. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all going crazy. I'm going crazy. We got to stop. Stop. Let's color.
Yep. Yep. Make sure you have that adult coloring book. Make sure, I mean, also too, you can also create your own music playlist also. So I know I tell my clients to have one for when you're, hiding, and you can have another one when you're just wanting to feel inspired, wanting to feel spiritual, a gospel one, right? So you can have all these dedicated playlists, and even for your kids too. Okay, when music starts, okay, we're gonna just be quiet and just focus on our breathing,
Mhm.
or we're going to focus on these ocean sounds, or we're going to focus on what it could be anything, Kid Cudi, whoever. But we're going to focus on the instruments from it. It can even go down to little details of instruments, and can you hear the violin in the background of that song, or just being able to pinpoint that and then focus on that throughout the whole song. A good tip for mindfulness when it comes to music.
Yes, I absolutely love that you mentioned that, and I love that we kind of just naturally went into this conversation about like creative therapy. Santasha, you just gave us some techniques about the different playlists. I never even thought about it like that. I have a bunch of playlists all over the place.
Yeah.
But I never thought about it like that. That's just how my brain works. I compartmentalize everything. But what are some other strategies from both of you ladies that you have taught your clients to implement that's in regards to like creative therapy, especially on the adult side? Like we kind of went down this road for children, but what about the adults, like us teachers? Because we're going crazy right now.
I think when you're thinking about creative therapy, you always kind of parallel that to self care.
Mm,
And so when you're thinking about self care, there's so many aspects of
mhm,
self care. You have the emotional self care, environmental self care, financial self care, social self care, spiritual self care, professional self care. So when trying to identify what you can do in each aspect,
mhm,
even in your profession, what is it that you need in
mhm,
your profession? Okay, well, when I'm at work, I'm stressed, I'm sweating, I'm shaking, carrying on. What is it that you can do at work that's going to assist you and bring you down?
mhm,
Environmentally, what is in your environment? What is in your social network? What are you doing spiritually that's going to allow some type of self care?
mhm,
And really, you want to think of it holistically. I
mhm,
am a systemic person because I'm marriage and family. So they taught us that all parts connect together and
mhm,
are systemically parallel to each other. So if you're able to input that self care and those different aspects, hopefully the goal is that anxiety is down, stress is down, and you become more functional and proactive.
mhm,
So, an example could be with creative care. What I used to do with my clients at Meharry is it's really quite simple, actually. I would put a piece of paper in front of them and I would allow them to choose any type of utensil. So, whether it was a pencil, a pen, a marker, a crayon, whatever it was. And I would describe something to them.
mhm,
I would just describe it. And they would draw what I described.
mhm,
And each person would come up with something completely different. They
mhm,
were all, I would say, maybe a big circle with a triangle and some sun rays around it. Some people would have a huge circle and the sun rays around that, a triangle in the middle, a triangle on the outside. So it's just seeing the different aspects and different ways that they're thinking and
mhm,
then having them explain that.
mhm.
Why did you come up with this? What was going on in your mind when I was saying these specific descriptions?
Mm. I might have to borrow that technique because I like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Um, Outside of the music one that I had when it came to the pinpoint an instrument, I always because that's what I do typically. Sometimes whenever I'm hiding, I always kind of listen to one of my favorite songs, R&B. I'm a '90s R&B type of chick, you
Yeah.
know. So I just love listening to like just pinpointing one of those instruments, right? My favorite is like the bass. So I
Mhm,
can listen to the bass and it's sometimes because it's so low, right? It's
mhm,
hard to kind of get or kind of, get your ear to. But once I get it, I'm hearing it. And then I'm identifying the frequency of it, right? And I'm just pinpointing just that. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm not thinking about anything, that I have to do, right? Or anything that I've done or, oh, I shouldn't have never done this. No, no, no. No, let's just focus on this particular baseline. Another thing that I do, a lot of it that I'm going to talk about is more so trauma work.
mhm,
Um, so sometimes we have to be able to, especially with my clients, resource first
mhm,
and then we start processing trauma. And the reason for that is typically once you go through processing that trauma, it can recreate some feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, because we had the foundation of resourcing, you can go back into those skills that we talked about, the coping skills. One of those resourcing tools that I like to like to do with my clients is pretty much identify that safe space.
mhm,
And then as you identify it, it could be multitude of things, your grandparents, Jesus. It could be your little sister as well too. And just being able to create a scene and try drawing it,
mhm,
you know? So when you are feeling heightened and you are feeling like, okay, I'm feeling triggered, I need to deep breath, I need to breathe, then you can already look at that picture or have that picture in your mind that you drew.
mhm.
Okay, it's Jesus with his hands open. It's my little sister right next to him, those type of things as well. So that's how I like to kind of add the creativity to it when it comes to my trauma work stuff too as well. So yeah.
I love that. A friend of mine and I, we often talk about like just the educational trauma that we as educators feel and have felt throughout this
Mhm.
entire experience. And how, and I feel like this also happens with just people in general, but specifically Black women who just so happen are service workers or teachers or all that. We still show up even when we're not well, even when we're
Yes.
not well. And some people would be like, "Oh, you're so strong. You're so resilient." I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be resilient. I
I am not resilient. Help me. Help me.
I am not okay.
but even I think it's this conversation of one, we have to stop masking. Like I can own that. We have to stop masking and saying that we're
You're
not
right.
that we're not okay. But I also have to say this. Sometimes we want someone to know us well enough to be like, sit your tail down, you ain't all right.
Mhm.
You got the Holy Ghost. I was telling somebody today, this very day, I said, I wish someone knew me well enough. And there are people that know me well enough, but I'm just generalizing again. I wish somebody knew me well enough to be like, I know that you're saying you're okay, but I know that you're not.
Mhm.
I
Right.
know that you're saying you don't need this, but I know that you do. So I'm just going to do it.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's what I would do. That's what I would do. I have a friend that won't take money and I know she needs it. So I don't ask her if she needs it. I just give it to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, you're going back into the strong Black woman.
Yes.
And no, 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 I'm going to make it through. And we will dig our heels in, be 10 toes strong on that ground while suffering,
Right.
trying to make it. And you might be making it, but you making it like this. You floating and you just your head's above the water. So you're breathing, you're
Yeah.
alive, but
Yeah.
somebody might have a life jacket to throw you. Take the life jacket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like an example of this, and I've kind of touched on this throughout this entire series, which is why I'm so passionate about talking about mental health, especially mental health and education, mental health for
Mhm.
us Black women. It's because like 2018, lost my grandfather, went through a very, very serious depression, like serious. It was bad. But I still showed up to work every single day, teaching the children how to read,
Yep.
doing the things, showing up. Because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Like, oh yeah, if I don't come to work, the children are not gonna learn how to read and get their interventions and all that
Mhm.
jazz.
Mhm.
Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. However, I learned from that because when I tell y'all it was bad, I should have went to therapy then, but of course it was one of
Now,
those
Pan,
Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't. Because the children had to learn.
because the children had
Yep.
to
Because the children had to learn.
you now you know how I feel now.
yeah. I should have went to therapy then. So
Right.
when I lost my maternal grandmother the following year in 2019, I was like, nope, we are not. I got out this rabbit hole. I'm not going back. So I did that very different. I took off of work, did all the things, and of course COVID hit, and I was like, yes, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I hate that the detriment that COVID caused families and the illnesses and all that. I hate that. But when I tell you it saved my life, just the stop, the instant, like, no, we're not doing anything. You can't go anywhere. I wasn't obligated. It felt good. Like that was my life jacket. The shutdown was my life jacket.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, people, went through their issues and then also people have died, COVID and stuff too. But the tidbit of it was introverts were living, right? Introverts was having their party because, and I'm also an introvert as well too, so I can say that. Just being inside and just being able to be amongst themselves. But others,
Mhm,
if we weren't able to get out and be able to socialize like
mhm.
we usually do, right? So we all kind of didn't get that aspect of it. And when I tell you, everyone at least can say the pandemic was life changing.
It was
Everyone can say that,
real bad.
right?
I unfortunately had to work all through COVID. I was considered what did they call them?
Essential worker.
I was considered an essential worker. So I had on full PPE gear And I mean, I had to do it. What? The children needed me. Like you said, the children have to learn. And so I was like, my clients need me. My staff needs me. I'm over this whole program. I was over a plethora of programs at that particular time.
Mhm.
And again, I can only piggyback on the strong Black woman. I don't have a choice. You
Yeah.
know, I have to go to work. I got to pay bills. The adults got to learn. My clients gotta have this. My coworkers have to have this. My staff needs to have that. And so I really honestly did not take a break. I was working long hours all of the time, getting home, stripping down at the door because you didn't want to bring any germs into your house,
Right.
having to immediately shower, sanitize, wipe down everything.
Did you have
Um,
Lifetime gym too?
yes, I had everything. Like I had the Lysol, everything. It was just crazy. So I was impacted that way because I still had to go when other people didn't. And so I don't think that I really felt the impact of COVID until something tragic happened in,
Mm-hmm.
in my life. And it didn't even have anything to do with COVID when the tragedy happened. And so when you were talking about going into a deep depression and having to deal with the loss of friendships or the loss of relationships and having to still go to work. And at this particular time, I had just gotten a promotion at a new job. So now I'm in a higher position. I'm having to learn all of that culture. And again, I'm a young Black woman at a place that's predominantly white
Mm-hmm.
and Caucasian, and they're older Caucasians who now have to listen to a young Black woman. So it was, y'all know the trials and errors with that, having to deal with that, and then the mental health aspect of the tragedy that I was dealing with. So
Right.
now I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to do all of my work stuff, be superwoman,
Yeah.
and act like what's going on in my personal life is not affecting me.
Woo. Come on
And,
now.
and so it's just digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm a spiritual person, and I love the Lord. He heard my cry, saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, baptized. And but it was difficult for me
Mm-hmm.
to even pray appropriately to where I believed He was going to get me through this.
Yep.
Because you wouldn't do me like this. I'm your child. Why am I going through this? And so, really bringing it back to the systemic part.
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting the mental health care that I need? Am I attributing some of the self care tactics that I know? And as a counselor, as a life coach, as a therapist, I did none of those things for myself.
I feel
But I
that.
was great at giving it to others, even throughout the process. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh girl, you're going to make it through, and here are some steps you can take. So I knew the steps. I knew what I was going through, but I had the hardest time implementing those things in my personal life. So
Right.
for the teachers that we're talking to, please remember that not only are you teachers for the students, but you're teachers for yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
have to instruct yourself and make sure that you're implementing those things, because if not, we are going to be no good for the people that we're trying to help and doing the mission that God has asked us to do.
Amen, girl. Where the collection plate? Come on.
Yeah,
Say
we
My cash app is.
right.
we gonna pop that down in there because that was right. Yes. And I love that you mentioned the constant, like we're constantly showing up and we give all the tips, tricks, everything. That's me. I give the tips, tricks, the all the things.
Yes, because we know them.
And
Right.
then when it's time for me to take them in, I'm like, nah, I just don't. I knew about the therapies and that the district pays for therapy. I did finally go to therapy, y'all. I did finally go.
Good.
Not when I should. I did go to therapy, but as a dancer and dance educator, I know all about like mind, body, spirit connection. Like, girl. So it wasn't until I want to say that was the top of 2020. No, maybe it's top of 2019. It was top of 2019 where I just went on this like not health, but movement kick because I know movement heals, right?
Yes.
And I know how
Yes.
good it feels to my body. And, we know all the science about the endorphins and all that jazz, serotonin,
Yes.
all the happy chemicals, right? But,
Yes. Oxytocin. Yes. Yes.
right, all that. So I was doing it for I suffer from chronic hip issues. So I was like, let me just go ahead and do my stretches and get a little mobility back over here in this right hip and all that. But what came out of that experience, it was end up being 98 days. I'm still mad about my 2 days. Still mad.
But at least you got 98. Give
I
it
got
up that.
98 better than
So,
zero.
right.
true. But what I can definitely say was it became a spiritual journey for me. And I never understood when people would say yoga is so spiritual because to me it was like it's exercise. It became spiritual journey because I remember I watched Yoga with Adrian. So those of y'all who like yoga,
Yes.
do it at home. Yoga with Adrian.
Oh, she's so beautiful. Yes.
And
Spirit.
he was doing
Oh,
a
yeah.
spirit release. And this particular one, it was the tree pose, and I lifted my arms and just started just boohoo crying. And I was like, "Oh my goodness,
Come on.
why am I crying? I don't know." But it was a
Mm-hmm.
that I needed that I didn't know
Yeah.
I needed, and
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know would come out, of course, in that moment of just stretching my arms. Like I took a deep breath and just started crying.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. So when I tell you, when it comes to dance and just even stretching, right?
Yes.
Just stretching, being able to just get all those things out and the day, all those things is very important. I'm so happy you said that. So yes, you already know that when I was in high school, I used to dance too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my stuff kind of stems back from that too. And I also have a colleague who's a dance therapist also. She's a movement therapist. So we actually have that at Gaia Center as well. Her name is Victoria. She's so beautiful. But I think it is important to have that mind body connection as well too, right? Like you said, you have that moment where you're able to go into tree pose and just everything's paid down, right? So when it comes to just being in the day and just after work, being able to just stretch it out, right? Lord, I'm doing something right now, but being able to just to get yourself and just kind of stretch out the whole day. Even when you're in the shower too, you can always go in the shower and mindfully take a shower, right? So being able to imagine the water just kind of dripping off your body and imagining all your stresses coming down and going in the drain, similar to that water, cleansing yourself, right? So you can put yourself in that type of moment too and mindfully shower, mindfully stretch, So I love it.
I like that because it reminds me of body awareness, which
Yes.
is a mindfulness
Yes.
technique. And just when you guys were talking about, pains in the hips
Mm-hmm.
and different things like that, when you connect your physical well being, your spiritual well being. I know I always go systemic. Your spiritual well being, um, and even your mental health, your mental well being, psychological well being. When you're not taking care of one of those things, it manifests itself in some type of way, and it can manifest itself physically in your body. And the body awareness, just kind of like what Santasha was saying, piggybacking off of that, taking a breath and making it quiet time, acknowledging, any pains that are in your body. How do your feet feel right now? Kind of move it up to your calves, move it up to your knees, move it up to your thighs, move it up to your hips, acknowledging each part of your body all the way up,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up, and then letting that go, because all of those things parallel and all of
Yep.
those things have some type of connection to
Yes.
each other. Spiritually, what's going on in your minds, what's going on with your higher power, if you have one. And if you don't have a higher power, what is it that you connect with? Is it nature? Is it earth? Is it whatever it is that is your connection?
Mm-hmm.
Are you having a personal relationship with that? Because establishing those things, and like you were saying, you did 98 days. I've been working on my physical health because that's important, and while I was just doing that, it was just exercise at first, exercise. And then I was like, okay, well, let me do some nutrition in this too. So then I started adding the nutritional part in there. And then, well, while I was doing it, okay, well, let me make sure that I'm praying while I'm doing it. And so then the spiritual aspect came into play. Okay, well, let me listen to this educational podcast, or let me have something playing on the television, anything like that. So not only am I addressing my physical well-being, I'm addressing my spiritual well-being, I'm addressing my mental help and capacity, and all of those things start playing together. Now
Yeah.
my energy is up. I'm getting more educated every day in my field because those are some of the things that I'm listening to. My spiritual and personal relationship with God is getting stronger because these are things that I've decided to make consistent and make a pattern. You know,
Mm-hmm.
play it out in your day. How is your day going to be organized? How are you going to be productive? And
Right.
again, piggybacking onto the teachers, what are you doing throughout your day and what have you strategically planned through
Right.
your day to address your self care, to address any of the issues that your students are having? And it doesn't even have to be a lot of things. It could be one thing that you decide that you want to address with your students today because they have 1,500 issues. Pick
Yeah.
one. And
Yeah.
Right.
that's solution focused. Your ultimate goal is to decrease the stress and decrease the trauma with your students and with yourself. And in order to do that, pick small things. It's small steps to
Mm-hmm.
reach your final step and to reach your final goal.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's just 5 minutes within your day, right? Because I know
Mhm.
sometimes we can get on ourselves. "Dang, I didn't do this. I didn't do that." If you just give yourself 5 minutes to just take a deep breath, you're starting somewhere and then building it up to, okay, well, I'm going to listen to this. Then I'm going to take a deep breath, building yourself little by little, right? And just creating that enough time so you can go into your self care technique or your self care routine and building that up.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And I love that you mentioned about like as teachers, find those moments of self-care.
Mhm.
So I would
Yeah.
say
Absolutely.
last 2 years on my planning period, I still do my work, my planning period, but I started sitting in my car. Literally got a lap desk in there with the
Mm.
little adapter from my laptop because, like I was mentioning, I will become so overstimulated that I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I can't think straight or come home with a whole attitude. Now I
Yeah.
tell people I got married to stay married, and my husband
Yes.
deserve that of me coming home and I'm just like tense and like and rah. You know, I'm very
Mhm.
conscious about the energy that I put out, right? But
Right.
you know, when you got a person that you're married to who's your best friend, he gonna tell you like, so every time you walk in the door, you take a big huff and a puff. What is going on here? It's that Tasha
Mhm.
No story, and like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he checked me with love, and so I had to
Yes,
figure
go ahead.
another way to do this work without
Mhm.
bringing it home. Of course, as an educator, there'll be days where I do bring it home, but not energetically.
Yeah.
Physically, yes, I might have to grade some papers or used to do things like that. Cool, fine, and dandy, but I was working to not bring this heavy energy home all the time.
Mhm.
And that was the thing that helped. Sitting in my car. When I wasn't
Changing
teaching
that environment.
my car.
When I tell you your car is your home away from home,
And is.
oh my God. Yes. As long as you're parked at a safe place and a safe environment,
Yep.
yeah. Being able to utilize your car and just taking a deep breath and just being able to just,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep. It's
um, it's
saved
good.
my mental health as an educator for the past 2 years. That's been my thing. And I would definitely say you was talking about the physical education, Miss Harris, and it was not physical education, but physical activity. So when I
Mhm.
was in kindergarten, I had bought a Fitbit because I was like, how many steps am I taking a day? And I was
Right,
averaging
right.
about 20K because we
Mhm.
got kindergartners from
Yeah.
7:35 to 4 o'clock at the time. Yeah,
Ooh,
it ain't no sitting down. Woo! Praise the Lord for a shorty. Hallelujah. But there was a moment where I kind of fell off of that step amount.
mhm.
Mhm.
And so I made it a competition. I would write the number on the board of how many steps
Yeah.
I'm at by lunchtime. And because the children were learning place value, yep, I upped the rigor on the little kindergartners. We
Yeah.
learning
Yeah.
thousands now, baby. I'm sorry. We finna learn how to say this. Okay. But I would give them a competition. Well, I would compete against them rather. So
Mhm.
I would tell them in order for Miss Porter to meet her goal of 20,000 steps, and of course, so they can actually see what that number look like, right? I would tell them, keep your chairs pushed in because I'm going to walk and I'm going to walk fast. And they loved it. One, it kept them on task, but it also helped me to meet a goal. It was also a moment where I hate drinking water. I'm doing good because got the water right here. I hate
She
drinking water.
does. She does too.
I don't
She
like
hates it.
Ooh, I
I
can't stand.
don't like it, but I know I need it. So
Yes. So I got
ugh,
new kids on it, y'all. Kindergartners don't forget nothing. So I had an app on my phone. So teachers take this because y'all know we struggle to drink water because we don't have no time to drink
You know,
water
I
or
got an app.
to pee. So let's just say that.
Hmm.
But I had an app on my phone. I want to say it was called Drink Water, and it was set out for alert every like 30 minutes. And so I
Yeah,
told the
that's what I
students,
have.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, that's what I have.
I told my students every time this goes off, Miss Porter must drink water. And so I had this one little girl, and she was my baby that I had to love on her a little harder. If you catch my
Hmm.
drift, I
mhm,
love her a little harder. But she was a good accountability partner, baby, because she was like, Miss Porter, you didn't stop. And I was like, what do you mean? We're supposed to be learning. The alarm went off.
mhm.
I was like,
And you need to drink your water.
ooh, when I tell you that baby, she gave me a run for my money, but she was the best accountability partner ever because she made sure Miss Porter stopped to drink her water. I miss her. I need her now. Cause whoa. So teachers, parents, tell the children
Mhm.
hold you accountable because they're gonna hold you accountable.
Yes, they will.
Accountability is definitely important. When you were talking about, you were taking accountability on when you get home,
Mhm.
ensuring that your attitude is together. Something that I think is very important with any type of professional, inclusive of our teachers, um, which is compartmentalizing,
Yes.
being able to compartmentalize work, compartmentalize
Mhm.
what if you're in school, compartmentalize your personal, your marriage, your children, all of those things, so that when you're dealing with the professional aspect, pick a time. Okay, it's 5:30. I'm gonna go ahead and shut down. Now, easier said than done. Again, I was horrible at it, but I was great at teaching it.
Mhm.
But I had to quickly learn when I was over a whole clinic that because I was working all hours, I would go home, take all of my stuff with me, open my laptop back up because you're on call 24/7 usually in the healthcare field. Make sure my ringer is on because if it's on silent, I'm gonna miss it. And so
Mhm.
you're always on alert. You're never shutting down. You're always anxious and stressed out. Okay, what's that call going to be? Okay, what do I have to fix now? Okay, there's an issue. I got to run back over there. And so I had to learn one, I had to get accountable people under
Yes.
me. My staff had to be accountable and had to be reliable. And so never really got to that point. I had a few, but ones that I could, I would tell myself, all right, it's 6 o'clock, close your laptop. You can keep your phone on if you want to, but I had to pick things to shut down. Don't take any more notes now. All right, go ahead and turn this off. Okay, go ahead and do this. And I had to intentionally and purposely do those things. So, teachers, close the notebooks. Hey, shut your phones down. Close any of those worksheets that you're doing and intentionally do that. Set the time to stop because if you don't stop, you'll always be running and you'll always be tired. And you're pouring out, but who's filling you up? Okay,
Woo.
give yourself time to be filled up, kind of like a Brita water filter. You pour that water in and it drizzles
Yeah.
on in, ensuring that you're having people, your social network, your spiritual network, that you're having individuals or activities or self care activities that are filling you up because of how much teachers and educators pour out to others.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Woo. My
Right.
cup.
Listen, I could keep going.
Woo. My cup runneth over right now because oh my gosh. I personally needed to be checked on some of this too. Like I've been doing better,
Good.
but I can definitely say I wish I heard all of these techniques and strategies for personal life and professional life early on in my career. Like we
Mm,
don't.
Me too.
me too.
Me too.
So with that being said, what has been the best piece of advice that you have received in your own career to sustain?
Probably for me, it would be do what you can.
Mm, mhm,
Do what you can. Um, and be okay with the things that you can't do at that time. It's not that you won't do them, just at this particular time, it can't be done or it doesn't have to be done. And so that was really giving me permission to say, all right, AK, although you have a list of 15 things and if I have a list, I check those things off and I want to get it done that day. That's why I have the list, is
Mhm.
to get these things done for the day. But again, in my field, chaos happens everywhere and
Mhm.
all of the time. So it was being okay with things not going to plan
Mhm.
and being okay with the fact that I can do it tomorrow or it can be done. And if you can't do it, somebody can, you
Delegate.
know, somebody can do it. It was something that when I was in Kisumu, Kenya, when I was in my master's program. And I quickly realized, again, it was me and others that came with me. And they were so sad all the time. They weren't sad all the time, but they felt bad for the African children that were there. Oh my gosh, we just feel so bad for them, and they don't have this and they don't have that. And I said, you know what? They are not sad. You
Exactly.
guys are putting sadness on them in this, and they are not sad. They're telling. Oh, my phone's about to die. They're telling you none of these things, and so you don't have to put that pressure on yourself. Calm down. Do what you can while you're here, and then go home.
Mhm.
Right. Definitely for me, creating boundaries was a life learner for me when it comes to this field. And just overall personal life too. Being able to say it's okay or being able to tell myself it's okay to say no.
Mm.
Right. And when it comes to this field, there's only so many of us, right? So we get asked too, hey, can you see this client? Or hey, can you do this? Can you do that?
Okay.
And it's like, yes, yes, sure. And then as a social worker, we're always like the change agent. So
Mhm.
we want to save the world if we could, right? We really want to save the world. But knowing that, okay, I can't do this on my own. So asking for help, one. And then another one was also saying, oh, okay, I'm going to get AK back to. Okay. So being able just to say that, okay, I cannot do this and I am still the person I am. I'm very professional. I know my stuff. I need a break,
Mhm.
you know? So it was that for me being able to create healthy boundaries as a professional and
Mhm.
as a mom. So when like the transition of going home in my car, I create a whole transition. I'm going to be sitting in my car when I get to work.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to leave it here in my mind. I'm leaving it here at my
Space
face.
at the
It's
Light Center. And
Mhm.
then as I'm
um,
driving off,
with
listening to my
my
trap music or
or
my R&B or
or
just
just
anything, I'm
I'm going
going off home.
home
And
and
I may have to do some laundry when I get home. I
I
may
may,
have,
you know,
just be a
be away
wife to my
from
husband and a mom to my son
myself.
Owen. So, just
Mhm.
Making sure I create
healthy
healthy.
boundaries within my field was definitely something I had to teach myself.
Yep, and I definitely agree with that. I love that you mentioned the word boundaries. Like that's been a big word as a wife, a daughter, family member, all those hats,
Mhm.
as a educator and as a business owner. So Cultivated Connections is my education consulting business, and it's been bigger than I thought it would ever be. Trying to balance all of what comes with being a entrepreneur, and what does it mean to trademark, and learning about that and finding the funds to do that.
Yes.
What does it mean to be a social media person? And I love social media. Social media is fun to me, but that takes time to do and develop. What is the newest lead magnet? What email campaign am I going to send out? What PD am I going to teach? Like, it's like, okay, girl.
As it now,
Now,
woo,
woo, I have no idea nothing
I'm
about
in the
social
process
media.
of it, so I understand.
I
I
get
get
But it's fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, I have learned more about what it means to create boundaries, to do the
yeah.
things. whether it's like when I tell you work stays at work, I think this past couple weeks has been the only time that I've brought that energy home. Why? Because it's May and we're just finished testing. They hit another test and we got graduations and celebrations. So August and May are usually the heavier months, beginning of school, end of school. And I own that and I give myself grace in those moments to feel the things that I feel. Like
Mhm.
yesterday, I know I slept all day. I know I slept all day. Night, night. Your girl was tired.
Yeah.
But allowing myself to do that because there was a time I would not.
Mhm.
Anytime I had a moment where I wasn't doing anything, I would feel guilty, and I'm like, no,
Yes.
rest is productive.
Mhm.
Like, no, it's okay to sleep all day, girl. You've been running for 10 months,
And then,
for work and personal.
yeah,
You
and
know,
then
we
you
come
come
back
back
to
out
the
of
woman.
woman.
Black
Black
women, we got to save the
the
day.
day
We
we
got
got
to
to
push
push
through.
through.
You
You
know,
know,
that's supposed to
folks
be
can
coming
come
aside,
aside all
but
day.
we
We
have
have
to remember
the
that's
best
just a
the
myth.
myth
And
and
okay,
okay,
nothing that is a myth. You
you
know,
know,
Mhm.
because
because
I mean, when we were growing up, we really didn't have black women who wasn't just
just
saying,
say,
"I'm
I'm just tired of you.
sleep." You
You
know,
know,
I
I
used to- I
I
don't
don't
remember in
Mhm.
my lifetime seeing any black women
think
on
on
TV
TV,
saying, "I'm
I'm
out."
out.
Right.
I'm out. I'm out.
No. I agree with that. Like and as you were saying, I'm playing a mental Rolodex of like, when did my people, the matriarchs in my family, ever take a break?
Yeah. Yeah.
Barely took a break when they was sick.
Right.
Right.
I
And I
remember my grandma just cooking for all of us when
like
we had 10
in
people
people
in our family,
and
and her just huffing over the sink.
Mhm.
Grandma,
grandma,
you need help? No, I got it.
Mhm. No,
Okay.
you don't, Granny. You know.
right.
So we have to be able to one learn
Learn
that
that
for
else,
ourselves and
then,
then practice it
you
on
know,
ourselves, and
and
then
then our
two,
children too,
because
because
they're
they're
what
what
we're
we're
doing.
doing, and
They're
they're
gonna
gonna
be
be like,
like, oh,
oh,
I
I
can
can't,
take a break. You
you know,
know, I
I
can't
can't
Yes.
just
go.
go.
I
I
can't
can't
do
do
all
all
these
these
things
things
that
that
I
I
can
can't do.
even
Even
if I'm
sometimes
not
dealing with the
fast.
past,
I
I
can
can
fix
fix
it
it
later.
later.
You know.
Mhm. Yep. Agree. Agree. Ooh, y'all, this has been amazing. Oh my goodness, we have hit the hour mark, and clearly we can stay on here all day.
Right.
Yes, I always talk about an hour because I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be about 30 minutes. Nah, because the conversation get real
Right.
good. So I always talk about an hour to just let us organically talk and organically speak. So my last two questions for you, beautiful, amazing queens. Ah, we gotta do this again. I'm gonna figure out another
Absolutely.
time. I'm gonna
Right. I'm doing right.
we might have to do this bad boy live, honey, in person and in living color. We'll be in the chats, okay?
Mhm.
What's coming up for you two ladies in your profession outside? What's coming up? Like what's on the calendar? What's on the docket?
Me?
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
I,
I
like I said, I'm a
I'm
full-time
here.
therapist.
Uh,
I'm
I'm
a
a full
full therapist
therapist.
at the Center for Embodied Healing. I actually just started taking more new clients, and I
And
left my other job. So
so
this
this
is my only job right now as a full-time therapist.
uh,
So I'm
I'm
taking
taking a
new
new client
clients. Again,
again.
I see adults focusing
Focusing
on
on anxiety,
anxiety,
depression,
depression,
uh,
um,
religious,
religious, sexual
sexual trauma,
trauma, generational
generational
trauma
trauma
as
as
well.
well.
So
So
those are
those
my
are myself
specialties and
and
speech therapy
therapy.
as well too.
Um,
So
so
just taking
taking a
new
new client.
clients. Feel
Feel
free to
free to
contact me
contact
at Guidance
me.
Center.
Um,
My
my
number
number
is
is 15
274
274
9012. That's
That's
my
my
business phone,
phone
not my personal, because
down.
boundaries.
So
So,
yeah.
Boundaries.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And type that in our little private chat so I can copy and paste it. Yes, and that's for those of you who are in Nashville. The Gaia Center is here. I'm gonna come in too, cause yeah. Mhm.
okay.
And what about you, Miss AK?
I am definitely working on my business, Harris Howard Homes. And again, I mentioned a little bit of that at the beginning of the episode, the series, and how
we are trying to develop and cultivate leaders in the community, and the different services that we do provide, which is life coaching, counseling services, referrals, resources, all of those things. But a big part of that is the transitional housing. And that is something that is very passionate about. But we have to raise funds because we need a house. And so I'm definitely trying to build up financing for that, looking for grants, all of those things, but ensuring that we're providing the appropriate services for the people that need it. The indigent, our women with babies, our co-occurring disorders, individuals. And so I'm always looking for sponsors. I'm always looking for individuals that want to help or that want to provide some of the services that we have at Harris Howard Homes. I have my social media outlets where I put out various help information. And like this month, we're still in, what are we in? We're still in May, which was Maternal Mental Health Month. And so that's what I discussed for the month of May, were different topics and different diagnoses for mental health. And so I give out various information and resources that are needed, definitely for our community. So I am building Harris Howard Homes and always looking for partnerships and always looking for ways to give out the information that is needed and to provide the resources that are needed.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. The absolute amazingness is on the screen, y'all. I wish you both the best of abundance,
Thank
joy,
you.
luck, blessings, all the things that's going on in your lives. I wish you just well. I'm like, that's my baby. That's my baby
Right.
right there.
Girl, I'm so proud of you. 10 years.
Absolutely. When you said that, I said, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
She got
Thank
it.
you.
Congratulations.
We on it.
Thank
All of us.
Thank you. You. Yes, yes, yes. And like what's coming up for us here? Well, first a break. Like, I'm giving myself a break. But coming out with a course is talking about like teaching classroom culture
Mhm.
in the arts classroom, but from a holistic way.
Mhm.
Like, first of all, we got to check ourselves as educators. Like, why are we even doing this work?
Right.
Like, let's start there. Alignment and philosophy. So why are you doing this work? And then we could talk about managing the classrooms and the
Mhm.
activities and all those other things. So that'll be a 3-day pre-recorded workshop coming out in July, right before school start.
Uh-huh.
And we might have y'all back on right before then too for these new teachers.
Mhm.
So we can help them get their life together and create some boundaries early and not wait till like year 7
Right.
to figure out their lives.
Right. I need to come to one of your class.
Huh? You said
I said,
I
I
what?
thought
need to
you
come to one of
wanted
your
us
class.
as a dance educator because I didn't know we were teaching dance.
Yes, yes, I teach dance education. So, just to give some people who have not heard my background, my bachelor's is in dance education, but my master's is in curriculum and instruction with a focus as a reading specialist. So, I'm a certified dance educator, elementary educator, as well as reading specialist. So, I can teach your baby how to read and dance. What's
Uh-huh.
up? I
Um,
got you.
Multi-talented.
But I've taught sixth grade science and social studies. I've taught middle school dance. I've taught kindergarten and got back into dance. Also served as an instructional lead for enrichment. So I'm all over, all over. I got my hands everywhere. But my love is the arts and arts integration and arts for healing and all that jazz. Just because I know what it did for me, but I know it could do for others, especially those babies that look like us,
Absolutely.
those adults that look like us. That's where my heart lies. And I love that you mentioned movement therapy. That actually was my dream, was to be a movement therapist. And now I'm like, how do I go back and do that without going broke?
right.
Without having to work my whole
See if you can
life.
find a
So I'm
certification.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
See if you can find a
we need
certification.
that. We
we
need
need.
that.
yeah. So link me because that's one of my I love movement therapy and all that brings somatics, Feldenkrais, like the Alexander technique and like how it heals the body. You can naturally heal your own body, which we already know
Mhm.
that, right?
Right.
Um, but being able to accurately share that information with
Absolutely.
students and all of that jazz. Is That's the next goal. It's crazy how things turn full circle.
Yes.
Mhm.
uh, like, yes, that's what I wanted to do, but of course, didn't have that confidence, didn't feel that worthiness,
Mhm.
right? That I was worthy enough to do something of that caliber. But now I'm like, nope, it has come right back. Let's see, how can I do that? How can I serve adults and children in that manner with something that I love? So keep y'all posted on that right there.
Yes, I'm tuning in.
Got you. This wholeness, we got to be whole in order to serve, and most of us are not.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I put the correct social media platforms on there.
Mhm.
Harris Howard
Yes,
Homes
ma'am.
and the Gaia Center is where you can find these beautiful ladies. Right there, they're going. You can also, I'll tag them also on this post or one of the post pages, this, that, and the
Mhm.
other. But I thank everyone for tuning in this month. Oh my goodness, y'all. We had a time. It has been fun. This is the first, not first series. It's actually the second series that I've done. But I think this was my one of my favorites because we were able to just expand and share and, you
Yeah.
know, edify the beautiful work that everyone has been doing. So thank y'all
Thank you
so
so
Thank
much for
you.
having us.
Oh, no problem. It's gonna happen again. Cultivated fam, we are out. Catch the replays of all the other episodes. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. You're gonna learn a lot of things. So get your notebook, and we'll be back sometime, maybe in July, with a new live series because your girl's taking a break. Yeah. So I'm gonna end this live stream.